Okay, so we're back and we are ready to deal with our opacity and our color. So the first thing we're gonna deal with is this nastiness here with these opaque spots. Now, what we're going to do, we've already got the basis for what we need for the underlying role. This will work fine. We're going to adjust it somewhat, but that's fine the way it is. So what we need to do is we need to repeat what's going on here that we did with the normals, but in grayscale. And we can't turn well, we could, but it'll be different. If you turn this back into a grayscale, it's taking, because it's got those RGB values, it's not going to come out looking like this. I mean, it'll give you a different effect. I mean, it might be something you want to experiment with because it will be related to this, so it'll be moving in the same way, but it's not what we want here. Before I go on, I forgot. These cells here, in my original, this disorder here looks really awesome. So I forgot to add this on the last time, but this is really quick. We don't even have to make an empty function. We're just going to put, just put a time slider on that. And that's done. So we need to start. Now, these blurs here, we don't need to repeat. So what we really want to do is we want to create a moving map that's moving exactly like this, but is more suitable to how we want our alphas to be. And we really want to kind of even it out so it's just a bunch of different grays as opposed to black and white, because that's kind of harsh. Water doesn't work like that. Okay, so the first thing we're going to need is a blend. And we're essentially going to do the same thing to these guys just on their own as we did here. Now, we've got two, kind of repeating ourselves here. This is the one on top. So this guy, we're actually going to use the same one at least twice because I'm going to need it. If I'm making another blend just like this one, if I'm making another blend just like this one, I have something on top. Now here, because of the way we did the normal map, the mask was taken care of for us. But we're going to actually have to make a mask for the blend that we're doing for the grayscale. So because it's grayscale, we can actually use this on itself, but it has to be, we have to use, again, a color version and a grayscale version. So we're going to do the same, we actually did the same thing up here. The top one has its own grayscale version because we're going to be doing different things with it. So we can undock that and move that here, and now basically we're copying what we did up here. So we have, this is our mask because this, we're going along with this, and then this will be the thing it's laying over. Now, these values here aren't very, I mean, in this particular case right here, we're going to want to add levels in here because as it stands right now, this image doesn't really have a lot of contrast to it, and what we want is a mask that's going to allow us to see clearly what's underneath. So this again, it's not exact, but let's get this so we can see what we're doing. This one's backward. There we go. So kind of go like this. So we kind of see more of what's going to be underneath because this is going to be our mask. So you get the mask to look like what you think you want your mask to look like. And now we have this one on top. Oh, sorry, wrong. Wait, what? Oh, this one underneath. And this is what the two of them look together. So you can look at your mask here. You've got a black hole, black. So you can see that. So all of this will be moving at whatever that particular pixel processor is doing. So we can dock this. We can always go back to it even if it's docked. So as long as it's highlighted, you can deal with it. So it just makes it easier because this is the only place we're going to use those levels for. All right. So let's maybe move this up a little closer. So we now have basically the same thing going on with this, which we've just, in this, here we have two different things, but we're doing exactly the same thing to them as we were doing to this one thing that we twisted around for one version. The only thing that's making it not exactly the same is the fact that this has a grayscale converter. Actually, let's not put that in quite yet, because we're gonna need this. What we're gonna do, what we want to do is, first of all, we're going to do the levels. You know, I think maybe we'll put this in. Just simplifies things. We're going to kind of do the opposite that we were doing with the mask. We want this to be kind of more even now, because it's not a height map, it's an opacity map. So you think about, you don't really, I mean, you kind of want the water to be more or less all the same I mean, you want some differences, but you want them kind of subtle. So maybe like this. I mean, this might be something you want to put a slider on the way I did the other one, I put a slider up at the end, so I set the ratios of the blacks, the whites, and the grays to each other, and then I let the end user move that whole setup up and down the grayscale. But you can get more detailed if you want with that. Again, that's your choice. Okay, so we did the levels, and then we kind of want to do the same thing to these. Again, you kind of want to even it out. Oh, wrong direction. Okay. And then I think that the simplest thing to do, again, because we're not dealing with height, is just to do a simple blend with perhaps lighten, which will kind of give you, you know, that's just a true blend. So again, you can fool around with this stuff, but I think we want this a little bit lighter, because you really don't want that much difference between them. And then, well, it would have done that for me automatically. And I'm going to dock that. Now, I can use just the lightness part of this to set the overall opacity of the water. That still might be too contrasty. Yeah, I think it probably is. So what am I doing? So there, I think that'll probably be better. Right. So before we publish this out, what we want to do is we want to expose this lightness and set that label to read opacity. So I think we'll probably reuse this one. All right, so this is going to be water opacity. And we're going to call this, well, this isn't in any actual group because this is going to cover it overall. So we're not going to put it in any group. We're just going to call it water opacity. Right. The default I'm going to set to 0.5. No, we're going to leave that like that. No, let's have it. Well, maybe not quite that low. Okay. So that's going to give us a some. Let's leave it at 0.5. I'm overthinking it. But I don't want it to be a float 2. I want it to be a float 1. Okay. So we can go back here now, and we can go to our lightness, and we can expose it and put water opacity in there. All right. So going to double check we're all hooked up. Let's see if this looks more like water just by doing that. And we will publish this. Okay. Well, it's evened out. And we can now adjust the water opacity to what we want it to be. And you know, you want it more or less the same because otherwise it looks really weird. But I think it makes a difference when it's not all exactly the same. I think it makes it look nicer. Those waves still look pretty crappy, but we'll get to that later. Right. Next, we can basically do the same thing with the color. Now, we've already got the workings of what we're going to do with the color right here. So we're going to just reuse these guys because this is black and white information. And all we're going to need for the color, really, is to mask one of these colors over the other. So the first thing we're going to do, I think, is we're going to make another parameter. And this one, oh, you know what? Let's make a new group. We'll just call it water because this will be watercolor. So and call this color group water. Because it's color, we want to float 4, and we are going to make the selecting method a color wheel. Let's also fix this. We're just going to call it opacity, and we'll call the group water. And then what we can also do is we can go over this bar here with our mouse and click on it and drag it up so it's next door to each other. In fact, let's drag it up to the top. Now, when you publish it out, it'll keep it within groups even if they're not appearing next to each other here. But by setting the order, you're setting also the order of the groups, which is the most important thing. So I think if memory serves, you know, if water is your first group, I believe, and you've got another water down here, it'll automatically group to whatever the first one is. But it's just easier to sort of look at them here. You know, if you can just drag them up and down. Okay. So oh, I didn't do anything with it yet. So here, again, it's the same process. You're going to expose it, watercolor, and it's the only one available to us, well, other than output color, which is generic, because it's the only float 4 we've made so far. So now let's set our watercolor. I should have remembered what that color was, but it doesn't really matter. But in order to do that, we have to go into the main graph. We can no longer do it here. Now, this is where this little guy comes in really handy, because it'll actually give you a color wheel. If you do it the other way, you have to put in RGB values. So you can, we can pick whatever color we want. We can make it a different color slightly. I like them on the greeny side. Or something like that, a little darker. Again, I'm probably overthinking this. But we can also adjust it once we're in the game. So that's been taken care of. I don't think we really need to publish out right now. Let's just hook it up. So again, a blend mode. So one is the top color. What did I just, what happened? Oh, I know what happened. I forgot to apply it. That's what I did. When, where are we? Color. Yeah, so when I did this, I forgot to hit the apply button. Before I moved back out of here. That was my problem. Okay. So, it doesn't really matter which one you put on top of the other. But what we're going to do is we're going to take this and use this as mask. And there's our watercolor. Oh, we already had a blend. Anyway, I could have plugged it in. I'm going to get rid of that one. And that's that. That's the basic color. We're going to put something on top of that. But this color just works with the exact same maps. And you really want to try to use as few nodes as possible, because each one of them takes a little bit of time. So so far we look pretty good from an optimization point of view. This one is running a little bit yellow, and you'll notice they will move from green to yellow. So far so good. We don't seem to. Oh yeah, that's not. I noticed we can optimize these. They work best at 16 by 16. And that means that we have to take this and we have to bring it back up to 256. All right. So I think we can take a look at what this has done for us. Okay. So the color is now matching. Our opacity reset again. It looks pretty swingy there. Something seems to be going on. I'm not. Oh, because we didn't set these. So, oh, I'm doing the wrong ones. Hold on a second. These are set really high. We don't want these to move very far at all. We want them to, so we're going to move that. Let's try this again. So while we're here, let's get that set. Where are we? Ripples. All right, let's. That's still way too much. Yeah, that's starting. I mean, I'm gonna have to look at what my old settings are. It's still moving way too much for my taste. But we'll worry about that later. Right now, I think the color spread is maybe a little bit too far. So we might want to just change this quickly. So this is that you know, we're just setting up a difference in hue. Let's bring that a little bit closer. There. Okay. Yeah, so I just went and looked it up. It's actually crazy low. The amplitude is almost nothing. And so it's like 0.005. I had it set it up, and I had the frequency set up as 1. I mean, this is better. I'm still not happy with it. It's still kind of rough, but it's looking more like it's not looking like it's swinging around. So it's going to be at a very low amplitude and a very high frequency, which makes sense because you want that swing super short, and then you want it to happen really quickly. Okay, so I think this is a good time to sort of put a stop to this one, and then what we're going to do next is we're going to make one more, but we're going to use a completely new noise, and it's going to be at a completely different sync to what's going on in here. So we're not actually going to be copying these guys, and that's going to be for like these sort of quasi-refractive, reflective thingies that are going to kind of turn themselves on and off, and we're going to use an emissive for that. But I mean, it's almost like little refraction lights, and I mean, it can be a little bit cartoony. So I mean, it is stylized, so you don't have to add this to your water. But it's kind of a fun thing to do. So we'll do that next. And then the final video, what we'll do is we'll work on fine-tuning the thing overall to have it look like we want it to look.